Vrax couldn't stop watching the footage. Frame by frame, angle by angle, 12 different camera perspectives, all showing the same impossible thing. 3.7 seconds. That's how long it took for the universe to stop making sense. On the screen, Throck, 7 feet of Gorath muscle and bone density that could stop plasma rounds, reached for the human female's collar. Standard dominance display, barely worth logging. Then, physics took a holiday. The human moved with precision that made Vrax's combat-trained brain scream warnings. Throck's massive frame rotated through the air, his arm bending at angles that defied biology. The impact shattered a reinforced table. Then came the kick. The sound echoed through the surveillance speakers like a gunshot. Throck's jaw exploded in a spray of teeth and bone fragments. The human woman straightened her collar, picked up her drink, and walked away. Vrax hit pause. His hands were shaking. 6 weeks earlier, the arrival of the Terran delegation had been unremarkable. Vrax remembered standing at Docking Bay 7, watching the merchant vessel Perseverance extend its boarding ramp. Standard protocol for newly registered trade worlds. Minimal fanfare, basic diplomatic courtesies, everyone pretending this wasn't the 1,000th time they'd welcomed some backwater species to the galactic community. The humans emerged in neat formation, wearing matching gray uniforms with their planet's symbol stitched on the shoulders. A blue marble swirled with white clouds. Pretty, fragile-looking, appropriate. Their leader, Dr. Chen, stood maybe 5.5 feet tall, slim build, dark hair tied back, eyes that seemed to catalog everything without judgment. She approached the welcoming committee with an extended hand and smiled warmly. "Thank you for accommodating us," she said in flawless galactic standard. "We're honored to be here." Beside Vrax, his deputy Goran, a Gorath himself, snorted quietly. "Garden worlders, look at them. No armor plating, no natural weapons, soft skin. How did they even survive long enough to build starships?" Vrax had nodded agreement. They had no idea how wrong they were. Kaelen Station's unofficial heart wasn't the council chambers or the trade markets. It was Sector 9's underground arena, the proving circles. Every species with pride brought their warriors there to establish pecking order through controlled violence. Rules were simple. No weapons, no killing. Fight until submission or unconsciousness. Throck owned that space. Literally. He'd won the lease in a match against the previous champion, a Vecnar whose crystalline body now bore permanent fracture lines from the encounter. For 2 cycles, Throck had remained undefeated. 43 victories, 0 losses, and a reputation that made most challengers reconsider before stepping into his circle. Gorath evolved on Khan Prime, a world with 2.3 times standard gravity. Every movement they made carried the weight of that crushing pressure. Their bones were denser than most starship hulls. Their muscle fibers could generate force that shattered industrial equipment. Throck was the perfect specimen of an already terrifying species, and he'd never met a human. Kira first visited the proving circles 3 weeks after arrival. Vrax only knew because security monitored all Level 9 activities. The cameras showed her standing at the viewing rail, datapad in hand, watching a match between 2 Kelrath competitors with the detached interest of a scientist observing lab specimens. She took notes, measured reaction times, analyzed strike patterns. When Throck noticed her, he'd been in the middle of his victory lap after demolishing a challenger in 40 seconds. The human female, tiny and focused, seemed utterly unaware she'd attracted the champion's attention. Throck approached with the casual confidence of someone who'd never faced consequence. In Gorath culture, touching another's shoulder or collar was a sign of friendly dominance, like a mentor guiding a student. He'd done it 1,000 times to smaller species. They always understood their place afterward. You watch like you want to learn, Throck rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. I teach you. Come. Kira looked up from her notes, smiled politely. Thank you, but I'm just observing for research purposes. I insist. His massive hand reached for her collar. His hand closed on the material. Everything changed. Kira's body dropped and rotated in a movement so fluid it seemed choreographed. Her hands locked onto Throck's wrist and elbow, creating a lever from his own arm. His momentum became his enemy. 7 feet and 400 pounds of Gorath muscle lifted off the ground, rotated through the air, and slammed into the viewing platform with a sound like a cargo container hitting deck plating. The crowd went silent. Throck's arm bent wrong, bone visible through torn skin. He tried to rise, confusion and rage mixing in his eyes. Kira stood in a stance Vrax would later learn was called ready position. Weight balanced, hands raised. Throck lunged. Her foot came up in a perfect arc, connecting with his jaw at 40 miles per hour. Teeth scattered like stars. His jaw shattered in 4 places. He collapsed, unconscious before hitting the ground. Kira straightened her collar, picked up her fallen data pad, and walked toward the exit. Sorry about the mess, she said to no one in particular. Vrax brought Kira to security headquarters in silence. She cooperated completely, answering every question with calm precision. Yes, she understood Throck had initiated contact. No, she hadn't intended permanent injury. Yes, she'd trained in martial arts since childhood. Mandatory education, she explained. After the primate wars, Vrax filed the report, then did what he should have done 6 weeks earlier. Accessed Earth's full classification database. The summary page had listed it as Class 7. Garden world, comfortable conditions, recently spacefaring, standard stuff. Page 43 told a different story. Death world, Class 9. The same rating as Karax, where the atmosphere was toxic and predators hunted in packs of hundreds. The same as Vorthen, where gravity fluctuations could pulp unprotected tissue. Earth's entry included a casualty list from something called World War II. 60 million dead. Vrax read the number 3 times, certain it was a translation error. It wasn't. The security footage leaked within hours. Every data pad on Kaelen Station played the same 3.7 seconds on repeat. The whispers started immediately. Vrax kept reading through the night. The Kelroth engineers accessed Earth's extinction records. 5 major mass extinctions survived. The Vecnar studied human cognitive development, problem-solving abilities that exceeded galactic averages by 40%. The Sulixians analyzed human chemical warfare history and immediately filed a petition to restrict human access to their methane sectors. But it was the primate wars that made Vrax's blood cold. They weren't ancient history. They'd ended 60 years ago. Genetically enhanced apes, humanity's own creation, had achieved sentience and turned hostile. The conflict lasted 53 years. Casualty count: 18 million humans, 32 million enhanced primates. Humanity had fought a civil war against another intelligent species. A species they'd created and won. The final report entry froze Vrax's hearts. All human children receive mandatory combat training from age 6. Justification: species survival imperative. Every human was a trained soldier. Every single one. The station would never be the same. The council convened in emergency session 72 hours after the incident. Representatives from 19 species crowded the chamber, all demanding answers. Should humans be reclassified as a security threat? Should trade agreements be suspended? Should Earth's delegation be expelled? Kira attended, but she wasn't alone. Captain Marcus Way of the Earth Defense Coalition stood beside her, a man whose scarred hands and thousand-yard stare told stories his service record kept classified. He waited until the shouting died down. "We know what we are," Marcus said quietly. His voice carried anyway. Earth didn't just teach us to fight. It taught us why we shouldn't. We built laws, ethics, restraint protocols, not to protect us from you, but to protect you from us. He let that sink in. Our first contact procedures weren't designed for our safety. They were designed for yours. Every human here has killed. We just choose not to anymore. The chamber stayed silent. Outside, the galaxy was listening. Throck spent 6 weeks in medical. His jaw had been reconstructed with biometal plating. His arm required 3 surgeries. He ate through a tube, spoke through a translator, implant, and learned humility through pain. When he was released, he went directly to Kira's quarters. Vrax followed, expecting violence. Instead, Throck performed something Vrax had never witnessed: a Goroth submissive bow, forehead to the floor, palms flat. "Teach me," Throck said through his implant, the words distorted but clear. Kira studied him for a long moment. "Why?" "Because I was strong, but you were stronger. Not just body, mind, control. I want to understand." She nodded slowly. "I'll teach you, but not how to fight better. I'll teach you why I fought at all. Why restraint is harder than violence. Why choosing peace takes more courage than choosing war." Throck's eyes, still bearing the fear from their encounter, showed something new: hope. 6 months later, Kaelen Station had transformed. Kira's cultural exchange program occupied 3 entire sectors. The proving circles still existed, but now they hosted exhibitions, demonstrations of discipline rather than dominance. Throck became her most dedicated student, teaching young Gorath that strength meant protecting the weak. And across the galaxy, others watched and wondered, what else had humanity been hiding behind those polite smiles?